We're here at the political funeral for Bob Kohler outside the Gay Community Center. Plans are to sing some outrageous songs and go down to Christopher Street to spread some ashes. And everyone here is an activist who's been involved with Bob Kohler in various events, and let's see if we can find a few to talk to.
Because I was one of Bob's friends. I met Bob in 1987, and he was one of the people who helped me maintain housing in New York, because I'm an HIV positive person. And if it wasn't because of Bob, you know, people were being kicked out of the house or offices because the social workers couldn't be bothered to stay after 5 o'clock to find a place for you to stay. And if it wasn't for Bob, the next day, Bob would come in and demand that these people would serve these people. And so one of the reasons that I love Bob more, because he stood up for the homeless people, not just homeless people, but people that were HIV positive. And battling HASA was like a big organization. ACT UP didn't do it. Gay Men's Health Crisis didn't do it. Bob did it. Bob did it all on his own. He would bring sandwiches. He'd bring people and friends and political friends, anybody that would hear his story. So finally it changed. And when I mean that it changed for the better, because now you can go into HASA and ask for a place to stay, and they have to service you. You cannot leave the building without being housed in a safe place for the night. And that's all thanks to Bob Kohler.
You're here for the Blade?
I'm here from the Blade, and we're going to do a story on Bob.
And what have you heard some interesting activist stories?
I have not so much activist stories, but a lot about his personality and his character. I just saw a sign, actually. Somebody told me that one of his most famous expressions was "wash your ass," and I just saw
wash as opposed to watch.
Yeah, wash. And I just saw a sign for that, so that was very interesting. But I also heard about the Thanksgiving that he just spent, his last Thanksgiving. He spent with his friend Frank, and I guess he was a very strict vegetarian, Bob. But on this last Thanksgiving, he told Frank, I'm going to eat everything. So we had turkey and stuffing, and Frank's partner said, you know, Bob, what did you think of the stuffing? And he said, I loved it. And he said, well, you know, it had sausage in it. And Bob said, now, why did you have to tell me that? but according to Frank, he had a wonderful time his last Thanksgiving, and
the community really, I went to his 80th birthday party last spring, and I was amazed at the number of very young people, activists, minority people. They had put together this vegetarian buffet for him to celebrate his 80th birthday. He was in a wheelchair because he lost part of his big toe, but he obviously had the ability to reach out and touch people generations much younger than himself.
That is what I've been hearing.
Yes.
Will you be getting a lot of archival stuff from Bob Kohler?
I have no knowledge of that at the present time. So I don't know.
So the competing archivist might have beaten you to it.
I have no idea. That's not what I'm here for.
Do you have any vivid memories of Bob that you'd like to share?
Bob and I think especially in recent years, really became friends. We got to know each other better as we wound up from time to time on panels together or whatnot, and each of us, Bob, of course, was predominantly GLS in the beginning, and I was GAA.
And he had very strong feelings about that. He was very passionate and very sort of anti-GAA in a certain way. They were all kind of establishment people to him, and he was very anti-establishment.
But in later years, Bob wasn't that way at all. Each of us recognized the importance of the other organization. And
I had my political differences with Bob, and I found age removed a lot of them.
Yeah, yes, it does that.
I used to be on the board with Bob at the New York City AIDS Housing Network. We used to do the food pantry. Did a lot.
Tell me, I read some very interesting descriptions how he'd go down and they would sometimes turn sick people away and put a chair out in the door for them to sit on.
Out in front of on 30th Street in the cold to get the rights for people living with HIV and AIDS to get the services they needed, the emergency housing. He was a pioneer for that.
I understand he did it day after day, week after week.
For I think it was like almost a year, and had support from Christine Quinn before she was the speaker for the council, and he just stood out there, and I said, look at this old guy out here fighting for people. So while we can't go out there, he inspired me to do the work that I have done in the activist field and working with people with HIV and AIDS. So,
he inspired a lot of people, and he had a way of he was like a bulldog. Once he got his teeth in, he didn't let go.
Bob was on it. He would come down. See, nothing was beneath Bob. He would come down. He would help us with the food pantry. We would clean the bathrooms. We would clean up, and we would have Thanksgiving parties for the community. You know, the low income, and he just, you know, and it was just, it made what you was doing worthwhile to see somebody that motivated and dedicated to just come out, because he didn't have to do it. You know, but it was in him to do it, and you know, and hopefully I'll get to his age or past that and still be doing what I'm doing, because if he can do it, anybody can do it.
I'm Denny Meyer. I'm the founder and president of American Veterans for Equal Rights New York, the Gay and Lesbian Veterans Association. But I remember the old days when the gods of gay revolution walked the earth like ordinary mortals. And we're losing, and you're old enough to remember too, I think. We're losing them all, one after another. Bob's another one. I mean, in the old days, you could walk down the street in San Francisco or New York and chat with Harvey Milk on the street, you know, and people like that.
Did you have any special? It's interesting, because I'm sure Bob was very, I don't think of him as someone as being a very passionate supporter of veterans' rights, as being more passionately anti-war or peacenik of sorts.
Well, I read in the paper, I didn't actually know him, I read in the paper that he himself was a veteran, as was Harvey Milk and many of the other people.
As was Frank Kameny, who you mentioned.
Well, Frank I know, and Frank is a wonderful, cantankerous guy, and thank God he's still around to make noise, and loudly. So, and as a matter of fact, you see all these hand-lettered signs here. And at our convention in April in Cleveland, Frank was there because he's a veteran. And he had just had a grand ceremony turning over his old picket signs to the Smithsonian Institute. And he said, in 1960, when we sat on my living room floor, his floor, with magic markers and oak tag making these signs, if somebody had said that the Smithsonian would want them someday, we would have said they're a fucking idiot. And, you know, now it happened. He lived long enough to see it.
Well, Bob Kohler did too, because Bob Kohler is also a big part of gay history, and it's evidenced today by the testimonials people are giving.
That's why I'm here.
I have a memory to share of just working with him on more than one direct action event, and just being deeply impressed by his commitment and the way that he tied all kinds of liberation struggles together, and was not only about queer struggle, wasn't only about AIDS struggle, but was about anti-war struggle and about anti-racist struggle. And he made a life of articulating that kind of crossover between various liberation struggles. And that is an inspiration to everybody, I think, and certainly has been to me.
My name is Gilbert Baker.
Tell me about yourself and your interaction with Bob Kohler and what brings you here today.
I'm the creator of the rainbow flag, 1978. So I knew Bob starting in 1993 when I came to New York to build a special mile-long rainbow flag for the Stonewall 25th anniversary. And when I came here, he was one of the first people I met.
There's one color that's different in the rainbow flag.
Yeah. Well, there are so many stories about the rainbow flag. I could go into that at length. In 1978, as a symbol of visibility, as a tool for everybody to love and share and to use as a political symbol.
It was accepted. The important thing, you can create a symbol, but unless others embrace it, it doesn't mean much.
Well, flags are whatever people want to interpret them to be. That's what they are. Flags are...
You made one new, what color is in the rainbow flag is not in the ordinary rainbow?
Well, that's pink and turquoise, and there's so many versions. But back to Bob. He connected me to that history of New York and that part of our heritage, you know, the Stonewall generation, the AIDS generation of the 80s.
As I recall, he gave a lot of money financing the 1994 celebration here in New York, I believe.
I wouldn't be surprised. He was a very generous guy. Certainly sold a lot of rainbow flags at the Loft, and actually for that, that's a debt I owe him as the artist and the creator. When he opened that store, it was a place for people to buy rainbow flags and to buy, you know, stickers and things that we put on our cars and T-shirts that we wore, and all the ways that we make ourselves visible. And I know that he thought that was important. He invested, you know, his own money and considerable talent creating that. And so I do owe him a debt for really bringing the rainbow flag in so many ways to New York City.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and my roommate is one of the organizers of this, and my mentor has been a friend of Bob's for 40 years, and I'm an activist. I work at ABC No Rio in the East Village, and we're a community center, so a loss of one of us is a loss for all of us, so I came out to support a great activist that's no longer with us.
And did you ever work personally with Bob on various things?
No, but I've done a lot of work in the LGBT center through Rich on the outside. So you guys know Rich Wendell, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you for showing up and bringing a serious issue along with you.
Yeah, well, my aunt has HIV, and he was someone that, never let anybody forget that no matter how healthy someone looks on the outside, it doesn't mean that them and their families aren't struggling with other issues, and it's great that he was a constant supporter of people with HIV and AIDS.
Hi, my name is John Riley, and I knew Bob Kohler through his activism. We got arrested on a number of occasions together, mainly around AIDS issues, but also around the war in Iraq. And he was arrested. He was a part of the Operation Homeland Resistance. And the thing that struck me about Bob is that he was such an inspiration to me and the many people that you see tonight, is that he had an understanding of the connections between the various issues and how the different movements need to connect. And his whole life was a life of struggle, and he really brought that with him wherever he was. And I remember we were having detailed, discussion meetings about what our strategy was going to be in court, because some people were being treated differently than other people, and it didn't matter to him that it was inconvenient for him to come back to court. He would come back to court because he was a movement person. And I think that that's the kind of example that I think people here find so inspiring, that someone that can go through, their radicalism isn't just confined to 2 or 3 years of their life. Their commitment to social justice isn't just when they're young, but all throughout their life. And I think that, a lot of people here are lifelong activists and appreciate him because of it.
And being arrested isn't a fun experience. I mean, you have a whole process you have to go through, right? Spending a night or two in jail and court appearances.
Yeah.
You ever get involved with fines? Were there financial penalties involved as well? I had never followed the process that thoroughly.
Well, many times you'd risk arrest, get arrested. For a period of time it wasn't so bad, but that's all because of the way people fought over the years to not allow the police to keep people in jail a long time. And so, in the early 90s it wasn't so bad, but as time has gone on, it's gotten more and more difficult. Under Giuliani, they've made it, not the stay in jail until the next day. And, that had impacted people, especially in the AIDS movement, who needed their AIDS drugs to make sure that they didn't get viruses that were resistant to the AIDS drugs. So it does involve sacrifices, and Bob's health wasn't always so good, especially in his later years, and yet he kept doing civil disobediences and actions.
Did they get rougher on you? I mean, if you're a guy who is regularly arrested at different protests, did they get where they'd see him coming and might be tougher on him because he was such an activist?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I do know that sometimes if they identify people as ringleaders, then they will go for heavier charges. I don't know if that happened to Bob, but, that can influence people's activism too. But he was willing to take a risk.
What has motivated you? Is this something they're giving out in pasting? I see a lot of people having it pasted on.
Well, I know he's a friend of yours, so it makes him a friend of mine, so I just had to, just for support. I mean, he's one of our family members, so I just had to, just for my respects,
I think he would love that too.
Would he?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember him now that I see his face, but I didn't know him personally, but I'm paying my respects.
Okay. And these are you just peel them off and stick them on?
Yep.
Who had the idea of this particular design?
I made them.
Oh, you made them?
Yeah.
You want to tell me about yourself, your name, and
who are you with? Sorry.
I'm Randy Wicker. I do interviewing for public television sometimes. I also do interviews on the internet. I knew Bob personally, and I'm an old activist myself.
Okay, I just want to know before I start talking.
I'm not with ABC, NBC, or CBS.
Okay. Hi, I'm Serena. I met Bob because we got arrested together in 2000, and I had the privilege of having his friendship and with working with him with the New York City AIDS Housing Network.
What event were you arrested at?
At a Diallo protest. It was an action or a protest that Fed Up Queers threw, and I just got arrested just in the fray, and Bob was there, and that's where we first met.
I wonder about your choice of the word fag, because I personally don't like political correctness, and some people want to make the F word equivalent to the N word.
Oh, but Bob was not about being politically correct at all. And for his 80th birthday party, that was the name of a song that the church ladies sang, and we're gonna sing after.
That's his 80th birthday. I was there.
Yeah, last year, right? They're the words that the church ladies for Choice were giving out, and they wrote the song, and we're gonna sing it at the end of the march. So,
Daniel, got the words, got the lyrics.
Randolfe fag, you're a radical fag on the front lines and kick lines with flair. You got loads of class, a really cute ass, and with you so generously share. When the chips are down, you are always around, and you know we'll have nothing to fear. We swear we'll keep our buttholes clean and our eyes on the grand old queen.
The protocol is where they're going to go. They're going to scatter some ashes.
Maybe. I am not at liberty to say.
Okay, well, we'll have to follow and see what happens. Supposedly, we're going to go up to 7th Avenue and then march down to Christopher Street. We're working our way to the front of the crowd.
And what is your name? Kara.
Bob Street! Bob Street!
Yeah, they are, but you know, they're like, I'm out of there. I felt like I did everything I can.
Who street? Bob Street! 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 Who street? Bob Street!
Fighting for queers.
81 years fighting for queers.
That's what it's about. It's fighting for the people. The fight is not over, okay? And the memory will still last in all our hearts and minds. And we're going to pass that on to people that come on after us, okay? So that's what it's about. It's about a celebration of a great man that did great things for us and people that don't even know that he did the things for us, okay? I didn't have, this wasn't even prepared. So we're going to try one more chant, and then we're going to let them do what they're going to do. I don't know, but I've been told.
I don't know, but I've been told.
Bush got a cure for AIDS on hold.
Bush got a cure for AIDS on hold.
Whether or not that story is true.
Whether or not that story is true.
AIDS got to end for me and you.
AIDS got to end for me and you.
Your sound up.
End AIDS.
Sound up.
End AIDS.
Break it on down.
End AIDS. End AIDS. End AIDS. Today.
It goes, Bush is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Cause he won't give us money for the AIDS HIV. Bush is bananas.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
Cause he won't give us money for the AIDS HIV. I said Bush.
Bush is bananas!
B-A-N-A-N-A-S! 'Cause he won't give us money for the AIDS.
Everybody, Bush is bananas!
B-A-N-A-N-A-S! 'Cause he won't give us money for the AIDS.
So if you want to drop off the candles for the memorial, or pay your respects over there, now's the time.
Bob Kohler, keep up the struggle. Bob Kohler, keep up the struggle. He was a Stonewall veteran. Yeah.
Bob Street! Bob Street! Bob Street! Before, we'll do it again. Riot, riot, riot. We did it before, we'll do it again.
Riot, riot, riot.
Bob Street!
Bob Street. Bob Street.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out to support Bob Kohler. Bob Kohler was an activist for 81 years in the struggle. So we want to stand here tonight and have a moment of silence for him. So can I get everybody to please bow your heads just for a moment? Thank you.
Wash your ass.
So a mayor here, we're holding Bob here in our hands.
Actually, Stacy's holding the rest of Bob.
Stacy and twins are holding Bob in their hands. And we just want to chant, since we're spreading them out over here, whose world? Bob's world. Whose world? Bob's world. Everybody got that? So Stacy, you let us know on 3 when you're ready.
Well, why don't whoever else wants to help throw these in, just come on up. And
everybody come on up and help.
Come on, Phyllis.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
Come on. See this? Can we help?
Yeah,
sure.
Come on, Phyllis.
Absolutely. I don't know how to do it.
Don't burn me though.
How about if folks want to just come up and sprinkle?
There's just something I want to say.
Okay.
I've known Bob
since the 60s. And he was a dear, dear friend. And he helped for our rights in our fucking life. And I just want to say to you, God love you. God help us to keep you fight for the rest of us. God rest your soul. And guess what, girl? Have a good fucking swim, honey.
We love you, Bob. Love you, Bob.
Love you, Bob.
And to Sylvia
and Masha.
And to Marsha, my old sister.
Kohler lives. Bob and Sylvia Kohler lives.
Bob Kohler lives. Okay, are y'all ready? Whose world?
Bob's world.
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 We'll sing it through twice. If you don't get it right the first time, you always get another chance.
You got the words? You got the lyrics?
One more time.
You're a grand old fag. You're a radical fag. On the front lines and kick lines with flair. You got loads of class, a really huge ass, and with you so generously share. When the chips are down, you are always around, and we know we have nothing to fear. We swear we'll keep our buttholes clean and our eyes on the grand old queer. God is a lesbian. She is a lesbian. God is a dyke. Send her Victoria, Mary, and Gloria. She'll lick it on the floor with ya. God is a dyke.
So folks, we have been talking about doing another action in the Haza for All campaign in Bob's memory. So stay in touch for more details about that action. And keep your activist spirits up even when it gets frustrating. And remember that Bob would have liked you to keep laughing through it all. All right? Be safe on your way home. Take a second person with you. Yes. It's at bobsqueers@gmail.com.